So you sent us a whole bunch of sources, all really focused on, well, conversational leverage, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, how to make your ideas land with more impact just by choosing your words carefully.
Exactly. And we're not talking complex debate tactics here or, big public speaking stuff. We're zooming in on one tiny, almost invisible phrase that people use constantly.
Uh-huh. I think.
I think. It's everywhere. And the sources you sent, they really hammer home this point.
Right.
Using I think all the time, even when you're totally right, just makes you sound less sure of yourself.
It really does. It's like the ultimate linguistic hedge. The research points out people often use it because they think it sounds polite, like they're gently introducing an idea.
Right, softening the blow or something.
Exactly. But what it actually communicates is, well, maybe you're only, say, 60% certain about what you're saying. Doesn't matter how brilliant the idea is.
You're basically inviting doubt before the idea even gets out there.
Mm-hmm. And I loved that insight from the research, too, the idea that your language acts like a filter. You could have this amazing world-changing concept, but if you wrap it in enough qualifiers like, well, I think maybe we could possibly try this.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you've killed it already.
You've just drained all the energy out of it. People might even stop listening.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward.
Give you a tactical upgrade right now.
We've pulled out 10 specific, confident alternatives to, I think, things you can actually use.
And these aren't just like vocabulary swaps. They're tools. They're designed to project certainty, competence.
Whether you're in a big meeting or just giving some feedback or, even in a tricky conversation.
Make you sound more fluent and sure.
Okay, let's dig in. Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
How do we make that first shift from sounding hesitant to sounding like you actually own your viewpoint? Establishing conviction.
Right. The sources really emphasize getting that conviction across first. And the absolute quickest way to do that, phrase number 1, I believe.
Okay. I believe. I can see that. It feels stronger, more thoughtful.
It does.
But hang on. Does I believe sometimes risk sounding a little too, I don't know, personal? Maybe even a bit emotional for a really analytical corporate setting. Is it always the right replacement for I think?
That's a really good point, and it gets to the nuance, right? Like, I think finautal kind of claims intellectual uncertainty, like, my brain isn't totally sure.
Okay.
Whereas I believe that claims personal conviction. It signals that this idea isn't just a random thought bubble. It's rooted in your knowledge, your experience, maybe even your values.
Ah, okay. So it's less about pure logic, more about I stand behind this.
Precisely. The statement of faith, really, in the outcome you're proposing, and that conviction. That's way more persuasive than just speculating.
Do you give an example? Like in a meeting?
Sure. So instead of saying, I think we should probably hire 5 more people, you'd say, I believe this team requires 5 new hires to meet the Q4 deliverables. See the difference?
Yeah, definitely. One sounds like a suggestion you just had. The other sounds like a conclusion you've reached.
It's conviction, not wishful thinking. You're staking your reputation on it in a small way.
Got it. Okay, moving to number 2. In my opinion, this feels like the classic phrase for, polite disagreement.
It is, and it's super useful, especially in discussions where you need to state your position calmly but still confidently, maybe without directly challenging someone else's facts.
So it sort of flags it as subjective.
Exactly. It frames what you're about to say explicitly as your viewpoint, which can sometimes lower people's defenses. They know you're not stating a universal fact.
But playing devil's advocate again could, in my opinion, sometimes sound a bit too formal. Or even like a bit aggressive in a more casual team setting, like you're pulling rank or something.
It can. It really depends on your tone of voice. But used well, it's actually a brilliant way to set a boundary.
So.
The sources show it works really well when you're offering a counterpoint to an already established view. It clearly signals, okay, I hear the current thinking, I respect the data, but my interpretation leads me over here. So if the whole team's leaning towards plan A, you could say, in my opinion, given the budget constraints we're facing, plan B actually offers a more sustainable long-term solution.
Okay, so you've clearly stated your view, but you haven't directly said your idea is wrong or that won't work.
Exactly. It's a good tactical tool for navigating potential conflict while still being assertive.
Makes sense. Okay, number 3, and this is one I really like for professional contexts, from my perspective.
Yes, this one's highly effective. It does something quite specific.
What's that?
It grounds your statement firmly in your specific viewpoint, your experience, your angle on the situation. It sounds professional, it acknowledges subjectivity, but it also sounds really sure.
Yeah, it implies this is how it looks from where I'm standing based on what I know. No hesitation there.
None at all. It signals that your view is valid from your vantage point.
You do hear leaders use this one quite a bit, especially when they're maybe trying to make sense of conflicting information or different viewpoints.
Definitely. Like you might say, okay, from my perspective, after looking through all of the regional sales data, this new plan is going to benefit everyone because it addresses the core needs I'm seeing in both the East and West territories.
Yeah, that sounds really grounded.
Yeah.
Very self-assured.
Exactly. So these first three, I believe, in my opinion, and from my perspective, what ties them together is they all make you, the speaker, take ownership of your view right away. They sound deliberate, intentional, thoughtful. They set a really strong, assertive foundation for whatever you say next.
Okay, so we've built that foundation of conviction, of owning your view.
Yeah.
How do we then step it up? How do we move into language that projects more certainty, language that really encourages people to trust our judgment?
Right, now we move into territory that sounds more decisive. And we start with number 4, which is actually a bit of a strategic curveball, it seems to me.
Wait a second. It seems to me that sounds, well, it sounds quite soft, actually. How is that more decisive than I think?
Okay, it sounds softer, but it's strategically different. Think about it. I think implies you haven't fully processed the information yet. It's still kind of bouncing around in your head.
Right, like a guess.
Yeah. But it seems to me implies you have processed the data, you've observed things, and this is the conclusion the evidence is suggesting to you.
Ah, I see. So it's based on observation, not just random thought.
Exactly. It lets you express a view, maybe based on your analysis or intuition, without sounding overly aggressive or like you're declaring an absolute irrefutable fact. It's a fantastic middle ground.
So it's the difference between, I think we're missing something here, and, it seems to me that we're overlooking a significant opportunity in the Latin American market.
Precisely. The second one sounds like a considered observation, even if it's phrased gently. It carries more weight.
Okay, I get that now. Clever.
Yeah.
So what's next? You mentioned confidence anchors.
Yes. Now we get into the heavy hitters for building trust. Number 5 is what some of the sources call the gold standard for creating immediate buy-in. I'm confident that.
Oh, I love that one. Seriously, when someone starts a sentence with, "I'm confident," I immediately pay more attention. Why is that phrase so powerful? Psychologically, what's going on?
It taps directly into some basic cognitive psychology. When you say, "I'm confident," you're essentially creating an anchor for the listener's mind.
An anchor.
Yeah. Humans naturally crave certainty. We don't like ambiguity. So when a speaker projects high certainty right at the start, listeners are actually less likely to critically pick apart the details that follow.
Oh, interesting.
You're basically transferring your internal feeling of certainty, your confidence, directly to them. It makes them feel more confident in what you're saying.
So if I say, "I'm confident that this new method is going to bring better results," I'm actually making the listener feel more confident about the method itself, almost before I've even finished the sentence.
That's pretty much it. It's a powerful shortcut to building trust in your judgment.
Wow. Okay. And if we need to dial it up even more?
For situations where you feel the data is really strong or your conviction is absolute, we have phrase number 6. I'm convinced that.
Ooh, that sounds final. Like, case closed. No hedging allowed there.
Exactly. This isn't for minor points. You reserve "I'm convinced" for your core beliefs or major strategic arguments.
High-stakes assertions.
Definitely. Think about justifying a major change or a big decision. I'm convinced that adopting this new software platform daily is going to change everything about how we operate.
Right. When you use language that strong, it signals you've done the homework, you've crunched the numbers, you've thought it through, and you've reached a conclusion you firmly stand by.
An unshakable conclusion, and the sources really highlight this. Using "I'm confident" or "I'm convinced" isn't just about making you sound strong.
It's about building that external trust.
Yes, which in any professional context translates directly into how people perceive your leadership potential, how willing they are to follow your lead, to act on your recommendations.
It connects your internal state directly to your external authority.
Beautifully put. And that leads us perfectly into the final 4 phrases, which are really all about turning conviction and confidence into action.
Okay, so this next set is about sounding like a leader, right? Using language that's clear, direct, action-oriented, moving things forward.
Exactly. Taking those ideas we're now confidently expressing and turning them into concrete proposals or next steps. No more fuzzy suggestions.
Let's kick off with number 7. This seems like a perfect direct swap for that really weak phrase. I think we should. Instead, you use, I'd recommend.
Yes. Instant upgrade. I'd recommend immediately positions you differently.
How so?
It frames you as someone offering expert advice, a considered suggestion based on your knowledge or analysis. When you say, I'd recommend we try this approach, you're not just tossing out an idea.
You're offering a solution.
A suggested solution, yeah. It's clear, it's direct, it's efficient, much stronger.
Okay. And following closely, number 8. I suggest. How is this different from I recommend?
It's subtle, but I suggest is often seen as slightly softer than I recommend. It still carries authority, but it perhaps invites a bit more collaboration or refinement.
Ah, okay. So maybe better when you want to propose an alternative, but keep the door open for discussion.
Exactly. It's great for situations where maybe the team is a bit stuck or heading down a path that doesn't feel quite right.
Like in a project review that's going sideways.
Perfect example. You could say, I suggest we look at this from another angle. Maybe we should focus specifically on improving the process efficiency first.
Right. You're proposing a clear pivot using confident, action-focused language, but it doesn't sound like a command.
Precisely. Now, number 9 feels even more collaborative, the way I see it.
Yeah, this one sounds quite natural, almost friendly.
I really like this one for team discussions. It is friendly, it's natural, and it does something interesting. It invites others into your interpretation while still making sure your perspective is heard clearly, maybe even first.
So you're sharing your view without necessarily forcing everyone else to adopt it immediately.
Yeah. It's great for breaking down complex situations or outlining a plan in a way that feels inclusive.
I can picture a manager using this. Okay, team, the way I see it, if we could just nail down these key metrics by Friday afternoon, we're looking good for the launch next week.
Exactly. It's inclusive, but still firm about the direction or the interpretation.
Okay, brings us to the final one, number 10. You said this one combines conviction with the highest level of confidence.
Yes. Rounding out our list, we have I strongly believe.
Wow. Okay, that definitely radiates certainty. When would you pull this one out? Seems like you'd save it for important moments.
Absolutely. This is for your key strategic points, the hills you're willing to die on, metaphorically speaking.
Like stating the overall vision or direction.
Precisely. I strongly believe this acquisition is the best direction for the company's long-term growth. You use it for foundational arguments.
And it's interesting, even though it's so assertive, using the word believe still keeps it somehow respectful. Like you're not claiming absolute factual knowledge, but absolute conviction.
That's the key. It's assertive, it makes your stance utterly clear, but it still technically allows for dialogue because it's framed as a belief, albeit a very strong one.
Okay, so that's the 10. We've got, I believe, in my opinion, from my perspective, seems to me, I'm confident, I'm convinced, I'd recommend, I suggest, the way I see it, and I strongly believe. That's a great toolkit.
It is.
But, the hard part, as always, is actually putting them into practice. It's more than just knowing the list, right? It's about breaking that old I think habit.
Exactly right. And to break the habit, it helps to understand why we lean on I think so much in the first place.
How do we?
Well, the sources suggest it's basically a defense mechanism, a kind of linguistic safety net.
A safety net.
How so? When we say I think, we're subconsciously giving ourselves an out, permission to be wrong. It sort of softens the potential blow if our idea gets shot down or turns out to be incorrect. It eases that fear of, intellectual failure.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. I know for years, especially when I had to give feedback to someone more senior, I'd always start with, well, I think maybe, or I was just thinking.
Hedging your bets.
Totally. Just in case I'd missed something or they knew better. It felt safer. But looking back, I probably just sounded less prepared or less confident in my own observations.
And that's the crux of it. That perceived lack of clarity, that hesitation, is what can hold people back professionally. The core message from all this research isn't necessarily about being right all the time.
It's about being clear.
Exactly. Confidence in communication is fundamentally about clarity. Even if your idea gets challenged or eventually rejected, if you presented it with conviction and clarity, people tend to respect the thought process. They respect you more.
So the clarity of the delivery can be more important than the ultimate correctness of the idea in terms of perception.
In many situations, yes. If you genuinely sound like you believe in your words, if you're clear and direct, others are just far more likely to absorb the message, consider it seriously, and respect the delivery itself.
Okay, so how do we apply this practically? Do we just pick one favorite and use it all the time?
No, definitely not. The real skill is in context switching. It's about intentionally choosing the right phrase for the situation and the level of authority you need to project.
Right, so you wouldn't use, I'm convinced for a minor suggestion?
Probably not. You need to think about the environment. Maybe use from my perspective when you're summarizing complex data in a big meeting. Use I suggest when you're proposing a small tweak to a colleague's work.
And save I'm convinced, or I strongly believe, for those big moments, the quarterly planning session, the major strategy pitch.
Exactly. Match the phrase to the required impact. And honestly, just the act of consciously removing, I think, from your regular vocabulary. The boost in perceived fluency and self-assurance is almost immediate.
It's incredible how such a tiny change can make such a big difference in how people see you.
It really shifts the dynamic. Instead of sounding like you're cautiously testing the waters with an idea.
You sound like you're charting the course.
Well put. #TagEtro.
This has been fascinating, a really critical deep dive into some very practical, instantly usable language tweaks. To help everyone lock these 10 alternatives into memory, let's just run through them one last time, kind of in order from building conviction up to driving action.
Good idea. Let's recap.
Okay, number 1, I believe.
2, in my opinion.
3, from my perspective.
4, it seems to me.
5, I'm confident that.
6, I'm convinced that.
7, I'd recommend.
8, I suggest.
9, the way I see it.
And number 10, I strongly believe.
Got it. 10 solid alternatives.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with maybe one final thought to chew on. A bit of a provocation.
Sure.
Communication, ultimately, it's only partly about the words themselves. Fundamentally, it's about the energy you project.
Energy.
Yeah. Confident energy, it attracts attention, it opens doors. Hesitant energy, well, it often closes them before you even start speaking.
Interesting way to frame it.
So here's the challenge. Try to consciously use just one of these phrases today. Pick one. Use it in a real conversation, an email, a meeting, whatever.
Okay.
And when you do, actively notice what happens. Don't just listen to how your words change. Pay attention to how you feel. Does your own sense of confidence shift? And crucially, observe the interaction. Does the energy in the conversation change? How do people respond?
So focus on the impact, the shift in dynamic, not just the vocabulary.
Exactly. Go focus on that resulting energy shift.
Yeah.
Because that tangible difference in perception, that's the real power behind mastering these simple linguistic tools.
Go speak with conviction. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.